What's up, everybody? King Triple C here, the Olympic champ, the flyweight champ, and the bantamweight champion of the world. Anyhow, you guys stay tuned, and you guys don't forget to hit up Artem MMA Analysis on YouTube. Because if you don't, you guys can all do me a favor and bend the knee to King Triple C.
What's up, guys? Artem MMA Analysis here, back with another video, and we're starting off with talking about UFC Fight Night, Hermansson versus Strickland. The first fight of that night is going to be Alexis Davis versus Julija Stoliarenko. I'm picking Alexis Davis to win this one. She kind of beats all of the people that are highly ranked, but she loses to all of the people that are highly ranked, and then kind of beats the lower level of competition in the UFC. She's kind of proven that. Not really in her last fight, but she has kind of proven that over the course of her career. She's on a losing streak to Kaylin Chukagian, Jennifer Maia, Viviane Araujo. I believe they're all in the top 10. I think Penny Kianzad has also broken into the top 10 recently as well, so not really too bad of a loss there. She does have a win over Sabina Mazo as well, who, man, I think she's got a big fight coming up, Sabina Mazo, that is. And Julija Stoliarenko, 2-fight losing streak. Win or go home, potentially for both ladies here. I think it's win or go home for Julija Stoliarenko, most importantly, as Alexis Davis has kind of been around for quite a while, so maybe they would want to hold on to her. I don't really know. But Julija Stoliarenko, she's 0-2 in the UFC so far. She was on the Ultimate Fighter season 28, I believe it was. It doesn't have a win in the UFC since then. Her last win was a split decision over 5-0 Lisa Erosa over an Invicta, and a couple of wins over on the regional scene as well. She does have very good jiu-jitsu, but she doesn't really have the wrestling to get it there. She's got like 12% takedown offense. She's landed 0.3 takedowns per a fight, which means that she is shooting for more than three takedowns in a fight. She lost to decision to Yana Kunitskaya. She lost by submission to Julia Avila. And Julija Stoliarenko is going to look to get this fight to the ground. I don't think she's going to get it to the ground, and I think Alexis Davis is going to outstrike her. Especially in the volume. I think she lands like 5 significant strikes per minute, which is pretty high, but she does get hit a lot. But I think she's just going to have the better stand-up than Julija Stoliarenko. I'm going to go with Alexis Davis by decision. So is the majority of people. There is a couple of submission picks here. I think Julija Stoliarenko submission isn't actually too bad of a pick, but I don't think she's going to get the fight to the ground. I think Alexis Davis is going to beat Julija Stoliarenko in this one here. Okay, I said it in the first time I made a recap on this video, and I'm going to say it again. What did Sam Alvey do to the UFC to deserve this matchup? I am really sorry, man. But I don't think that Sam Alvey's going to make it out of the second round in this one. I think Phil Hawes is probably going to knock him out pretty early if he's patient. If he runs out there and kind of just throws, then I think he could actually get himself in trouble from Sam. But Sam Alvey's on like a 7-fight losing streak, if you include the draw as a loss there. He lost a split decision to Wellington Turman, lost by submission to Julian Marques, draw was split decision Dawodu Jung, split decision to Ryan Spann, and unanimous decision over Clayton Abreu. Sam Alvey complains about decisions a lot. He went a bit wild when he lost the decision to Wellington Turman. Wellington Turman lost like 2 points in that one due to eye poke. Sam Alvey was not happy with the decision whatsoever. I'll just move up a little bit so we can see his face there. Phil Hawes, he's going to be a little bit smaller in there, 6 foot tall, but he's got the reach advantage. He was a very heavy favourite to beat Chris Curtis, and then got knocked out in the first round after hurting Chris Curtis as well. He did hurt Chris Curtis in that fight. Chris Curtis has gone on to beat Brendan Allen, and now is fighting Dricus Du Plessis coming up. So not really too bad of a loss to have on the record, although he was a very, very heavy favourite to win that fight. He's beaten Kyle Dalkaus by decision. He's beaten Nassourdine Malvov by decision. He knocked out Jacob Malkoon. And he knocked out a guy on the Dana White's Contender Series. I think he's going to beat Sam Alvey on this one here. Both guys are pretty old. Sam Alvey's definitely towards the end of his career. I don't know if this is going to be like his last fight, but if he loses this fight, he's definitely not going to be in the UFC anymore. UFC's not doing Sam Alvey any favours by giving him this matchup at all. Maybe he could have fought like EK Villain a waiver at 205 pounds or something like that. That would have made sense for Sam Alvey at this point in his career, but Yeah, I've got Phil Hawes. I think he's going to knock him out or win the decision, but I think there's a pretty decent chance he's going to knock him out. I've got Phil Hawes in this one here. He's going to be a big favourite, and I think he's just better than Sam Alvey, especially at this point in his career, where Sam Alvey just hasn't really been able to find a win. Let's be honest. So yeah, we'll see what happens. If Sam Alvey wins, though, I will be very impressed, but I'm going to have to go with Phil Hawes on this one here. And moving on to this fight, we've kind of got a battle between an older prospect and a younger prospect, Shavkat Rakhmonov, coming into this fight with a lot of hype. And yeah, for a good reason. He's 14-0. He's on a 14-fight win streak, obviously. He submitted Alex Oliveira in his debut, which is quite impressive. He beat Mikael Prazeres by submission 6 months ago. And now he's fighting Carlston Harris this weekend, and Carlston Harris has actually made a little bit of a splash in the UFC himself. He fought Saigid Izagakmaev a year ago on Dana White's looking forward to a fight, and then he got signed from that. He beat Christian Aguilera by the same submission that he beat Saigid from. I believe it was very similar anyway. And then he come out and knocked out Sanganai only 3 months ago. He's 34 years old. If he's going to build up his name, he's got to do it now. And I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is actually a pretty good way to do it, man. The Carlston Harris doesn't really have too long to break into the top 15. He's almost 35 years old. He's a very great guy, though. I think he's the first Guyana fighter. He's got a great story behind him as well. He's definitely a guy you can get behind. But speaking of guys you can get behind, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov here. This guy is hyped up, man. I've seen people say that Shavkat could beat or Shavkat would put on one of the biggest tests to a guy whose name has completely slipped my mind, Khamzat Chimaev, which is very interesting to me. Shavkat Rakhmonov, he's only 27 years old. I think they should build him up, not slowly, but they should definitely build him up as they are at the moment. They gave him Alex Oliveira in his debut, not the most easy debut in the world. He beat Mikael Prazeres 6 months ago. Before that, he was beating guys that were pretty good over at M1 and over on the regional scene as well. Carlston Harris definitely poses a decent submission threat. He's got great ground game. He also proved that he can also stand with Impa Sanganai as well. I think he's on a losing streak now, though, so maybe that win doesn't look as great as it once did. But let me think, man. I'm definitely going with Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I do think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to win the fight by submission. Sorry, I should say that I don't actually know what the odds are for this fight. I don't know how much of a favorite he is, but Carlston Harris, I feel like he's going to be very underrated in this matchup. That's all I'm going to say now. Two guys that are both 2-0 in the UFC. I think Shavkat's going to be the one moving forward. Shavkat's going to be moving into the top 15 after this fight. He's going to fight a top 15 opponent. No doubt about that. Maybe like Neil Magny, since Neil Magny wants to fight Khamzat Chimaev so bad, and the UFC really doesn't want that to happen. So Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Neil Magny, maybe after this fight happens, even though Neil Magny is very highly ranked at the moment, so that might not even happen at all. But yeah, everyone's going with Shavkat Rakhmonov. A lot of people that's what I mean, man. So many people are underrated Carlston Harris. Carlston Harris has been severely underrated in this one, in my opinion. But I just think Shavkat Rakhmonov's got the tools to get it done. Very good prospect to look out for. I do think he's going to get the job done inside the distance. I don't think this fight would go the distance in the general, no matter who wins. But I do have to go with Shavkat here. I think he's going to get the job done. And moving on to the next fight, we've got Malcolm Gordon versus Denise Bondar. And Malcolm Gordon's last fight, he beat Davison Figueiredo's brother, Francisco Figueiredo, but he kind of just did enough to win. He won a decision. It was a pretty close decision, even though it was unanimous. But he kind of just did enough. He just did a little bit more than Francisco to get the win there. Prior to that, he was on a 2-fight losing streak to Sub Monageri and Amir Albazi. Prior to that, he was fighting over at the regional scene. Denise Bondar, on the other hand, is making his UFC debut here at a flyweight, it is worth noting. And I'd say he's definitely more well known to be a bantamweight. We've got to see if we can trust him to make the weight. His last weigh-in was at 134.3 pounds. So he did weigh in a little bit less than the 135 mark. But Denise Bondar, 16 wins, all 16 wins by finish. Very exciting flyweight and a very exciting addition to the flyweight division if he is to get a win here. Now, the thing about Malcolm Gordon that I think does scare me the most is he, of his 5 losses, 4 of them are by KO, and that's very concerning when you're on the flyweights. And he's got 1 submission loss as well, so he's never lost by decision. On the other hand, he does have a few submission wins. Dennis Bondar, on the other hand, as I said, no decision wins at all. All of his wins come inside the distance. I think he's going to get another win inside the distance here. He's got 1 decision loss and 2 submission losses as well, which is relatively concerning considering all of his wins do come by submission. He was meant to actually originally fight Ode Osborne and then Victor Rodriguez before he found Malcolm Gordon on this card. I don't think he would have beaten Ode Osborne in my opinion, but I do think he can beat Malcolm Gordon here. And that's all I really do have to say. But if you look at his fights, he finishes them pretty early. He beat a very experienced fighter in the first round. See, the thing is, the level of competition is not great. I don't really know what else to kind of say, apart from the fact his level of competition isn't very good. But I do actually think Dennis Bondar is going to win here. It very well could be too much too soon, though. Let's be honest. Malcolm Gordon is definitely not top 15 in the flyweights here, but he's probably sitting somewhere within the top 25 to the top 30 of the UFC flyweight division. And Dennis Bondar is making his debut here. He is almost 30 years old, which is, so he's definitely got only a couple of years left, really. I lied. He's probably got like about 5 years left. But if he wants to make a run in the UFC, now is probably the time to do it while he is in his prime. And on the other hand, Malcolm Gordon hasn't looked too amazing in the UFC, in my opinion. He does have a win over Francisco Figueiredo, but he barely won that fight. He just did enough. He pushed him up against the cage a little bit. I think he took him down a couple of times from memory. Dennis Bondar, on the other hand, he's going to try and finish the fight. He's a finisher. I think he's going to hurt Malcolm Gordon. I don't think he's going to knock him out. I think we are going to see a submission, but I think he's just going to drop Malcolm Gordon. Test that chin, which is relatively a little bit fragile, I will be honest. Of his 5 losses, 4 of them are by KO in the flyweight division. Dennis Bondar is coming down from bantamweight, so he's going to have the strength, he's going to have the size, and he's going to have the power of a bantamweight here. He's going to bring it to Malcolm Gordon. I've got him inside the distance. It's by submission or by knockout. I think he's going to hurt Malcolm Gordon and then find the submission after that. And in the next fight, we've got a very interesting bout. This was actually meant to be the Ultimate Fighter Season 29 finale fight, because Tresean Gore qualified for the finals. Something happened to him. I think he got injured and wasn't actually able to fight in the finals. So Bryan then fought Gilbert Urbina, won by rear naked choke 4 months ago. Tresean Gore has come back. He's healthy. The UFC have decided, you know what? Bryan Battle, you may have won the Ultimate Fighter, but now you've actually got to fight the guy that you're meant to fight in that final there. So Bryan Battle has quite a bit to prove here. He's going to have to beat Tresean Gore. If Tresean Gore wins this fight, then you probably could actually argue that he is the one that deserves to have won the Ultimate Fighter Season 29 if he did not get injured there. But he's got a win over Gilbert Urbina by KO, the guy that Bryan Battle just beat. He beat Ryder Human in a very patient unanimous decision win there, only 2 rounds. If you guys don't know about the Ultimate Fighter, they do 2-round bouts until the finals, where it's 3 rounds. And he's got a win over Christian Eccles 0-0, 1-0, and 0-0. So he doesn't really have fights against that experience level of competition. Neither does Bryan Battle, though. That's the thing. Are these guys really UFC level? I would have rather they fought against someone in the UFC already instead of just fighting each other. But, I mean, I guess it's a little bit more of a learning experience for both guys. They're only 27, and we'll see what happens. So, Bryan Battle, he's probably got he does have a much better ground game than Tresean Gore. We have seen Tresean Gore beat a guy that probably did want to take him to the ground, though, in Ryder Newman. And he did it very patiently, and he did it by decision. But then he kind of come out against Gilbert Urbina and knocked him out. So that was very impressive there, in my opinion. Bryan Battle, on the other hand, submission by ninja choke to Andre Petroski, who the UFC are trying to build up now, which is weird. I don't really know why. He's got a win over Rakhmonov, who I think was one of the last picks on the show. Although his record's actually pretty good, and he does have experience in Bellator as well. A pretty good win to have on the record. Andre Petroski's a pretty good win to have on the record as well. And Gilbert Urbina, the finalist that kind of stepped up late notice to fight, he got submitted by Bryan Battle too. So Bryan Battle could definitely get this fight to the ground and finish Tresean Gore here. And part of me really does want me to pick Bryan Battle here. Because the fight's so close and the pick could change, but the other part of me just wants to go with the power of Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore is actually very impressive. He's a great striker. He can knock guys out if he wants to. He probably will do that to Bryan Battle if he gets the opportunity. But is Bryan going to even give him the opportunity? I think Bryan's going to take him down and potentially submit him. It's so hard to make a pick, man. I'm going to go with Tresean Gore. I do think he's just a little bit of better of a fighter. I don't know if either guys have really proved to me that the UFC level yet. That's why I wish that they met later on in their careers. I wish that they didn't meet right now after the Ultimate Fighter. I want Tresean Gore to fight someone in the UFC. I want Bryan Battle to fight someone in the UFC already. But it's a great fight nonetheless. I'm going to go with Tresean Gore here. Pick definitely could change. My mind could change. So follow my Instagram for my final picks, because my picks do change every now and then. I'm going to go with Tresean Gore at the moment. Alright, in this fight we've got Hakeem Dawodu versus Mike Trizano. Both guys probably looking for a ticket to the top 15. I think Hakeem Dawodu probably is still ranked at this point. I'm not too sure though. He's got to win over Zubaira Tukhugov. He's got to win over Julija Arce, Yoshinori Hori, Kyle Bochniak. A lot of split decision wins though. It's definitely worth noting. But he's a striker, man. He can speed it up if he wants to, and he can slow it down. And so can Mike Trizano. Mike Trizano put on a great fight against Ludovic Klein. He outstruck Ludovic Klein in that one there, especially in that third round where he needed the third round to get the win. He come out in that third round and he got the win. A late submission attempt there got him stolen the fight, really, to be honest. It was a great fight. Ludovic Klein was shooting for takedowns in that one, even though Mike Trizano was dealing damage on the feet. He's got a loss to Grant Dawson by submission, but that kind of happens. He's got a win over Lewis Payne, Joe Giannetti, and John Gunther. That reminds me, he's the Ultimate Fighter Season 25 winner, I think it is. The one where everyone on there was undefeated. So John Gunther won, pretty cool win there. Joe Giannetti in the finals. Lewis Payne after that. And then Grant Dawson, he lost too, but he beat Ludovic Klein in that one. He's fighting Hakeem Dawodu. This is definitely a step up in competition here. Mike Trizano hasn't really been fighting the guys outside of the Ultimate Fighter, because Lewis Payne was on the Ultimate Fighter, Joe Giannetti was on the Ultimate Fighter. He beat Grant Dawson, beat Ludovic Klein. Hakeem Dawodu here has been in the UFC. He's got that UFC experience. He's 12-2, and I think he's going to beat Mike Trizano here. He's a striker, as Hakeem. I don't think he's actually shot for a single takedown in the UFC. He's got almost a 70% takedown defense. I think Mike Trizano lands like 0.4 takedowns per 15 minutes, so he does shoot for takedowns relatively often. He's definitely shooting at least a takedown a fight. But will we see a takedown from Mike Trizano here? I think we're definitely going to see attempts, man. I think Hakeem Dawodu was going to win a decision, though. He's very good at getting back up to the feet. He wants the fight on the feet. He's putting up a relatively good fight against... He was kind of putting on a good fight against Movsar Evloev there. He did obviously lose in the end, but yeah, Hakeem Dawodu, he wants to fight on the feet. That's kind of all I've got to say, and I think he's going to get the job done. He's a bit of a decisionator. I think his last 4 wins are all by decision. Actually, he's got a KO over Yoshinori Hori, which is cool. But apart from that, split decision win over Julija Arce, split decision win over Zubaira Tukhugov. He kind of does just enough on the feet to get the job done. I think he's going to do just enough on the feet to get the job done against Mike Trizano here. I think it's too much of a step up in competition for Trizano. I'm going to have to go with Dawodu. I think he's going to get the job done. I think he's going to get the job done by decision, as he seems to be doing recently. In the next fight, we've got Juicy J Julian Erosa. I think he's actually making his 3rd run in the UFC debut right now, and he's looking quite good doing it. He fought on the Ultimate Fighter Season 22. It was Season 22. And he lost to the GOAT, man. I mean, who doesn't lose to the GOAT, Artem Lobov? And then he got a win over Marcin Vujicic, and then he lost. He got kicked out of the UFC there. He came back, won a few fights, lost a couple of fights, beat Jamal Emmers on Dana White's Contender Series 2018. Got into the UFC, but then went on a 3-fight losing streak. After that, won 1 fight. Now he's back in the UFC, and he's looking pretty good. He's 3-1 in his last 4. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Actually, he just come off a win over Charles Jourdain, which actually doesn't seem like a bad win anymore, considering Charles Jourdain just absolutely dominated Andre Ewell and slipped up on short notice to fight Ilia Topuria on UFC 270, although that fight did not actually end up happening. He lost to Sung Woo Choi, up-and-coming guy. He beat Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train. Sorry, I had to do that. And then beat the undefeated at the time, Sean Woodson, who's actually looking pretty good at the moment. About a year and a half ago. Before that, he beat AJ Bryant on the regional scene. So 3rd run of the UFC for Julian Erosa, and he's looking very good doing it. On the other hand, we've got Steven Peterson, who just beat Chase Hooper I picked Steven Peterson as a very slight underdog to beat Chase Hooper in that fight. And mainly because he missed weight. He's just way bigger than Chase Hooper, to be honest. And he's got a win over Martin Bravo. That was a couple of years ago, though, so it was a bit of a long layoff there. Lost to Alex Caceres, which doesn't really look like a bad loss anymore, considering Alex Caceres has gone on a winning streak. Lost to Luis Pena, and then beat Matt Bissett by a split decision. I think that Juicy J, Julian Erosa, is going to come into this one motivated. I think we're going to see a win on the Julian Erosa side. Steven Peterson did look good, and it is a pretty good win, I guess you could say, to beat Chase Hooper. Especially as he's also an up-and-coming guy. But in this fight, man, Julian Erosa is going to be the bigger guy. The fight is taking place at featherweight. Steven Peterson failed to make the weight in his last one. Is he going to make the weight in this one? We'll see. Actually, I lied. No, sorry. Julian Erosa fought at catch weight in his last fight, I believe. I think it was at 150. So he didn't miss weight in his last one. But he's a big guy. He's 6'1". He's 74.5 each reach. He's got the bigger reach advantage over Steven Peterson. He's got the height as well. I think Julian Erosa is going to get the job done in this fight. He's been winning recently however he wants. He's got submission wins and he's got knockout wins. I think he's he's actually very consistent in the way that he wins. So Julian Erosa, however he wants, I would say. Chase Hooper wasn't able to submit Steven Peterson. I think Julian Erosa, if he's going to win the fight inside the distance, we're probably going to see a knockout. But I do think that we are going to see a decision win on the side of Julian Erosa. Potentially inside the distance play as well. But I do think Julian Erosa is going to get the job done. Pretty confident pick here. Potential parlay piece if you are doing parlays. But I've definitely got to go with Julian Erosa here. And the next fight, we've got Miles Johns versus John Casteneda. And this fight, man, is taking place at bantamweight division. John Casteneda, Sexy Mexi, is his name. He lost a couple of times over Combat Americas after winning on Dana White's Contender Series. It's worth noting. He got a win over Combate, over Marcelo Rojo, former UFC fighter actually, or maybe current UFC fighter, I don't really know. And then he lost to Nathaniel Wood. He's got a win over Eddie Wyland, which I guess kind of happens. He's a very come forward fighter. He does like to throw bombs. Miles Johns on the other side, also kind of the same thing, but he's got the wrestling in his back pocket, and I think we're going to see Miles Johns resort to his wrestling. I think we're going to see Miles Johns use his wrestling to get a decision win in this one here. I don't really want to see Miles Johns stand on the feet too much with John Casteneda in this one here. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He's got a win over Anderson Dos Santos, a win over Kevin Atidavev by KO, lost to Mario Batista by KO, but prior to that he had a couple of good wins over Richie Santiago and Cole Smith as well. I think we're going to see Miles Johns get in this wrestling bag in this one. I think we're going to see Miles Johns wrestle his way to a decision victory in this one here. John Casteneda, I think he's got like 6 KO wins, 7 submission wins, so he's very well rounded on the feet and on the ground as well. But I just don't really like the momentum of John Casteneda coming into this fight here. I'm definitely going to side with the momentum of Miles Johns here. He's also got the wrestling in his back pocket. If we look at the odds, see if I can even find this fight for you guys. There we go. Miles Johns, pretty sizable favorite here. Minus 238, plus 220 on the odds here. Miles Johns, pretty decent favorite. I've got Miles Johns to win a decision, and so does the majority of the Tapology voters. In this next one, we've got Jailton Almeida versus Danilo Marques. I don't really expect this breakdown to be too long, because I've got so much hype on Jailton Almeida in this one, man. He's fighting at 205 pounds. He weighed in at 203 pounds in his last fight. And he beat Nasruddinov. I picked Jailton Almeida to beat Nasruddinov in that one. I think he was actually a slight underdog in that one there. I picked him to win by... actually, I think I might have picked him to win by knockout. But he won by submission very impressively. He was actually out-wrestling Nasruddin up against the cage. It was very unexpected. It was very high-level stuff from Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida, he competes in a lot of grappling tournaments, you will see. He's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I believe, as well. Very good fighter there. Danilo Marques, on the other hand, he just lost to Kindi Njokuku by KO. He's got a win over Mike Rodriguez by submission and a couple of wins thereabouts on the regional scene. Let's have a little look here. So he does have a submission underground fight there. I was just checking to see against Gabriel Checo, who I think has got a big MMA fight coming up soon. Just to get a little bit sidetracked. On the other hand, though, you'll see what I mean by Jailton Almeida. He fights in submission circus quite a lot. I think there was actually a one-night tournament that he had that go on, and he won the tournament there. Gabriel Checo, yes, he is. He's the one that is fighting Rashad Evans in Eagle FC tomorrow, I think, or the day after. And but with that being said, Jailton Almeida, when he fights his fights, he gets the job done. 9 submission wins, 5 KO wins. He gets them done inside the distance. Danilo Marques, on the other hand, a little bit more well-rounded. He's got a couple of decision wins in there too. But he's lost by KO twice. He's never been submitted in his career. I think Jailton Almeida is definitely going to be able to submit Danilo Marques in this one here. He's very big for the division as Danilo. He's 6'6" with a 77.5-inch reach. So Jailton actually has the reach advantage. Let's see what happens in this one. It's going to be very interesting. But Jailton is like a minus 400 favorite. I wouldn't really touch the line here for a guy making his UFC debut, even though I am so hyped up on Jailton Almeida. I'm a big fan of him, especially after that Dana White's Contender Series fight. And yeah, everyone's picking Almeida. I think it's a very good pick, to be honest. I think Jailton Almeida is going to get the job done in this one, probably in the first round. And the next one we've got at a fight which I think is actually relatively close on paper. You guys might disagree with me, but this is actually a pretty tough fight for me to pick. Personally, we've got Jason Witt, the Vanilla Gorilla, who is a wrestler, man. He's a chain wrestler. He averages more than 6 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is pretty impressive. Phillip, on the other hand, is more of a striker. He wants to keep the fight on the feet, and he uses his range quite well. He's going to have a massive reach advantage here. He's going to have a massive size advantage here. Jason Witt, 5'10", Phillip, 6'3", with a 10-inch reach advantage. That's pretty awesome, man, especially considering that Phillip is one of those guys that is actually able to use that reach advantage. Jason Witt's the game, though, is to chain wrestle. He wants to wrestle you, and he wants to take you to the ground. Phillip, he's got pretty good submissions off of his back. He does hold a couple of submission wins on the regional scene. I don't think he holds a submission win in the UFC. No, he doesn't. But he knocked out Leon Shabazian. He lost to Gabe Green, but he knocked out Ryan Kosuke 5 months ago. So he's actually got a couple of good wins on his record here. Jason Witt, on the other hand, 3-2 in his last 5. He beat Zach Busia on the regional scene, lost to Takashi Sato, beat Cole Williams, lost to Matt Semmelsberger, and then beat Bryan Barberina by majority decision there, using his wrestling. And yeah, Phillip keeps the fight on the feet. He's going to probably knock out Jason Witt, in my opinion. He's got the better stand-up. But yeah, he's just going to have to keep Jason Witt off him. That's what's relatively hard about this fight, in my opinion. Jason Witt's got that wrestling. He's going to look to wrestle. Phillip wrestling isn't really all that great. He doesn't really look to take fights to the ground anyway. He missed weight by quite a bit in his last one. By about 2.5 pounds he missed weight, which is relatively concerning considering how big of a guy he is for this 170-pound division. Can he get that weight cut? And if not, then it could be relatively scary. But I'm going to have to go Rowe by knockout in this one. Jason Witt is probably a pretty good underdog if he becomes like a massive underdog, but I don't really expect much money to come in on this fight. It's to me, it's a scary pick. You guys might have confidence in it, but personally, I'm a little bit on the fence about who is actually going to take the win in this one here. But I'm going to go with Phillip. I'm going to go Phillip by knockout. And this next one, we've got Marc-Andre Barriault fighting Chidi Njokuani, who is the younger brother of Anthony Njokuani, who used to fight in the UFC. Now he's fighting bare knuckle MMA, but we put that to the side. Chidi Njokuani making his UFC debut after a very impressive performance against the very young, up-and-coming Mario Souza. I picked Mario Souza to win that fight. Chidi Njokuani ended up ground and pounding his way to a victory prior to that. He's on a 1-fight win streak over Christian Torres. Lost to a couple of good guys in Bellator. Had a win. Has a couple of wins over good guys in Bellator as well. He's going to be bigger than Marc-Andre Barriault. He's 6'3" with an 80-inch reach compared to Marc-Andre with a 6'1" height and a 73-inch reach. Marc-Andre, the way that he likes to win his fights, he likes to push his opponents forward and he likes to have them going back. If Marc-Andre decides to kind of stay on the range of Chidi Njokuani, Chidi is going to find a lot of success in this fight, and I think he actually has the chance to light up Marc-Andre Barriault on the feet, but I think Marc-Andre Barriault has the grappling advantage, and I think if Marc-Andre decides to utilize that grappling advantage, he's going to find a lot more success. I think he's going to have to just try and back up Chidi Njokuani up against the cage, clinch up against the cage, and work his way to takedowns from there. Use the jiu-jitsu, use the wrestling, and just try and beat Chidi Njokuani on the ground in that way, because I don't think he's going to find that much success in the range of Chidi and Jokwani. Both guys, I would say, are strikers. I would consider Marc-Andre a striker, but he is a little bit more well-rounded, in my opinion, than Chidi and Jokwani here. This is my second time picking against Chidi and Jokwani. Maybe I am going to regret it like I did when he beat Mario Souza, but Marc-Andre Barriault, he's got the UFC experience, albeit a couple of losses there. No contest to Oscar Piota. A win over Abu Azaita in a brawling fight in my opinion, and then a win over Dalshat Langui and Paula there. I think we're going to see Marc-Andre Barriault potentially use some wrestling over Chidi and Jokwani here, and get a decision win, which I am picking, and so is the majority of Tapology voters actually. And the next one, we've got Punahele Soriano fighting one of Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz guys, Nick Maximov. And this is this is an interesting fight. I personally think it's a little bit too much too soon for Nick Maximov, considering he took Cody Brundage to a decision, and a relatively well fought decision as well. And Cody Brundage was fighting on short notice, so that kind of concerns me. Now they've just all of a sudden decided to give Nick Maximov Punahele Soriano. Maybe the UFC knows something that I don't, but I think that this is just a massive jump up in competition compared to where he was fighting Cody Brundage, fighting these unranked guys on the regional scene, beating Oscar Cota at heavyweight, it is worth noting, and then he beat Cody Brundage at middleweight. I picked him to win by submission. He didn't win by submission, but that's the thing about Nick Maximov. He's pretty much all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His striking is developing. It's good. Like, he's capable on the feet, but if he keeps the fight on the feet with Punahele Soriano, he is going to get knocked out. At one point, Punahele Soriano was actually a pretty big prospect, and now he still is, to be honest. He fought Brendan Allen, got outclassed on the feet of all things, but before that, knocked out Dusko Todorovic, knocked out Oscar Piota, went to a decision with Jamie Pickett where he defended one takedown and one on the feet, and he submitted Jonathan Patti over in the LFA, which was 3 years ago. Both guys pretty young. Nick Maximov a lot younger. But we haven't seen Punahele Soriano's grappling tested in the UFC, though. All of his fights have actually taken place on the feet. Nick Maximov will be that guy to try and take the fight to the ground. Obviously, it's a striker versus grappler matchup, with the grappler being on Maximov, the striker being on Soriano here. It's a difficult fight to predict. The lines are actually somewhat wide in this fight here. If we go to the fight on best fight odds, if I can actually somehow find it for you guys. Now, I think Punahele Soriano is like a -200 favourite, and we've got Nick Maximov returning a +160, +170 underdog. So maybe there's money to come in on Nick Maximov, and we could see those lines closing up a little bit here. But it's very difficult to not pick Punahele Soriano here, considering the advantage that he's going to have on the feet, and we've just got untested. He's got untested Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the UFC. His takedown defense is pretty good. It is listed as at 100% on UFC stats, but he has only defended one takedown in the UFC. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about this fight. I do think it is a little bit too much too soon for Nick Maximov. You've got a 24-year-old guy in the Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz Academy, and they're obviously trying to build up his name, make him a big name. But I think what they should do is they should really just be padding that record, that undefeated record, and building him up like a Sean O'Malley, man. And then when he's developed completely as a full mixed martial artist and not just a great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, I could be proven wrong here, then you can give him Punahele Soriano and those kind of guys. But I think it's just a little bit too much too soon for Nick Maximov here. I think Soriano is going to keep it on the feet. I think he's going to light up Nick Maximov on the feet. Nick Maximov is not going to be comfortable in this fight whatsoever. Nick Maximov, Punahele Soriano by knockout in my opinion. And this is the main event of the night. We've got Sean Strickland fighting Jack Hermansson here. A little bit of a step up in competition for Sean Strickland. Fighting Jack Hermansson, who just fought Khamzat Chimaev in a wrestling match. He lost that fight, but it was still, wrestling experience for Hermansson, who is more of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, coming off his win over Uriah Hall, he landed 4 takedowns. He was kind of pushing the pace as well. He set the pace to a decision win over 5 rounds, which is pretty impressive to see a guy go 5 rounds, that's for sure. A decision win over Krzysztof Jotko. KO'd Brendan Allen, which is actually a very good win, in my opinion. He beat Jack Marshman, and he beat Nordin Talib. On the other hand, Jack Hermansson has that win over Jacare Souza by decision. He got knocked out by Jared Cannonier, but then he's got a great win over Calvin Gastelum. I think that's like a first round submission. He lost to Marvin Vittori, which kind of happens. He He beat Ibn Shabazian by decision as well after getting kind of hurt in the first round, and then he took him down towards the last 2 rounds, and then he won the fight. So what we've got here is Sean Strickland. I think he's going to push the pace on the feet. I think Jack Hermansson is going to be looking for takedowns. It's definitely not fair to say that Jack Hermansson is only a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, but he does have great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, and in my opinion, his path to victory in this one is to utilize that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Try and submit Sean Strickland. Actually, when this fight was first announced, I was actually picking Jack Hermansson, to be honest. But now that I've seen the Uriah Hall fight, I've looked through some of Sean Strickland's fights. That win over Brendan Allen as well has kind of aged pretty good, even though Chris Curtis knocked him out in the first round. But Sean Strickland, I think he's going to be able to set the pace on the feet here. I think he's going to be able to push back Jack Hermansson. Maybe he could shoot for takedowns himself, as he does do that. Sorry, excuse me. And essentially take Jack Hermansson down, but I personally don't really think that's going to be the best idea. I don't think we're going to see Sean Strickland shooting for too many takedowns, as Jack Hermansson does have that submission threat. That leg lock over Calvin Gastelum, man, that's that fight. I mean, although Calvin Gastelum is on a bit of a losing streak himself, he's on a bit of a skid. That fight is still a great win to have on the Hermansson side. I think Sean Strickland's going to win here. I think we're going to see a late TKO or maybe even a decision victory. And yeah, that's what I'm picking. I think we're going to see Sean Strickland win the fight by decision or TKO. Hermansson, his best chance to win, in my opinion, is by submission. So we'll see how the fight goes, and that's my pick for the main event of the evening.